What's up, guys? This is another episode of Comment8, the podcast hosted by me, Dylan J. Math. And this is the third episode. I have a YouTube channel called Number 8 Entertainment, all one word. So check that out. If you want to check that out on my channel, you can there. Obviously, if you're listening on like your favorite platform like Spotify, then just check out my other content. I haven't uploaded an actual like full-on video on my YouTube channel in a while. It's just been these. So these have been like the easiest thing for me to do right now. And so today's podcast is all about. Sorry, I like hit my mic arm. I don't know if that picked that up or not, but sorry if it did. Today's gonna be all about jobs. And so I've had about 5 jobs in my life. Cloister Car Wash, which is now Mr. Hotshine. I was working in the interior cleaning section. I worked at John Herr's Village Market, a local grocery store, as a shelf stocker. I worked at Rite Aid Pharmacy as a cashier. I worked at Hoffman Care Associates as a direct support professional. And then my current job as a delivery driver for Domino's. Now, the order that I have these in from least to most favorite to least. Well, sorry, I don't know how to speak right now. So, from my least favorite to my favorite jobs, Cloister was my least favorite. Then it would be Rite Aid, then John Herr's, then Hoffman Care, and then Domino's. Cloister was my least favorite because it was my very first job at minimum wage, shitty supervisors, and forgettable coworkers in general. I just kind of fucking hated it. Rite Aid was my second least favorite because it was just a stressful job in general. I generally didn't like some of the management later on, and that was one of the main reasons why I did leave. And it was just soul-crushingly boring. So, it fucking sucked most of the time. So, John Herr's was the middle of the road because even though I was getting paid minimum wage, my job was relatively easy. I just stocked shelves and only sometimes had to interact with customers. Plus, some of my coworkers were all right, although working by myself in the dairy department was both lonely and peaceful at the same time. So, there's that. It came with some benefits, as in like it was easy. So, yeah. Next would be Hoffman Care. It was my second favorite job because not only the pay, which started at $11.25 an hour, and after only 2 years, I was up to $15 an hour. But also, I liked my coworkers in general, and the clients I worked with were for the most part, they were great. And it was just a rewarding job, and the management was good. But this is like the part where it's like the downsides kind of outweighed in the end after 2 years of doing this job. That it was stressful sometimes, like super stressful, because this was like a thing where I kind of not like took care of, but kind of just like watched over and kind of mentored and like made sure that things happened the right way. Adults with intellectual disabilities. And you can probably imagine what kind of stress comes with that. But also not only stress, but there's just burnout and just like compassion fatigue like you wouldn't imagine unless you were actually in a similar field to me. And then we got Domino's. It's my favorite mainly because of my coworkers. That's a big plus because most of my coworkers I like. There are some coworkers that I tolerate, but I don't hate anyone. So, that's at least a plus there. And, one of them is actually my younger brother, Colin. And, he's been there for about a year, and I've been there about 2 years. We're like a year apart in terms of job longevity. Not in age. I'm 2 years older than him. But, a lot of people that work there I would consider some of my best friends currently, and it's great. And the job is pretty easy. Like honestly, I would say it's like 95% easy, chill shit, and then that 5% when it's fucking crazy and busy and all right, you know what that means when I burp. You take a shot. It's going to become a thing, guys. Don't worry. It will become a thing because this is the third episode in a row where I've burped at least once. So, yeah, take a shot every time I burp. Got it. I don't care what shot you take. I will pause for 10 seconds to let you go get some alcohol right now. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, you got alcohol? Cool. I know that was really fast counting for 10 seconds, but whatevs. Did I just really say whatevs? Cringy ass motherfucker. Anyway, yeah, the job, like I said, it's pretty easy. I get the freedom of leaving the store and listening to music in my car when on deliveries. And even though I only make about $9 an hour inside, which is like the most a driver can make at the store, and when I'm outside on the road, I get $5 an hour, which is actually under minimum wage, but they're allowed to do that because of the tips. That's just my base pay. And on a good day, I could actually make up to 15 an hour. That counts my tips and stuff like that. And that's just tips, 15 an hour, not base pay as well. So like on a good day, I could be making as much as I was in my last job. There's like a balance. It's like this job doesn't have the stability, but it has less stress than my last job. Plus, I do make like an average of like $100 in tips each shift plus my base pay. Some days I can make closer to 200, like 150 to 180 maybe sometimes if it's a good day. Sometimes I make like 60, especially if it's fucking slow or it's just a bad tip day in general. You motherfuckers who don't tip, I have one thing to say to you. You're either from a different country or you're an asshole. I'm just going to say that right now. Controversial opinion here. Actually, it's not. It's just common sense, common decency here. Like, shit. At least, like, be nice to your delivery driver by tipping them instead of saying, hey, man. Like, this is the worst one when people are like, hey, man, I appreciate you. And then they don't write a tip on the card or they don't hand you cash and you're like, all right, fuck you too then. All right, I kind of got a little passive aggressive there. I'm sorry about that, but it's something I am a little bit angry about when people don't tip. So yeah, there definitely is some stress, like I said, but the people I work with make it so much easier to bear. Many of my coworkers are also supportive of my endeavors online or my music, like my YouTube, the podcast, or just like, like my American Idol audition. I'll tell you about that later on. All right. So yeah, let's talk about my experiences with each job. Starting in chronological order with the first job I ever got, Cloister Car Wash. I started this job in the early fall of my senior year of high school back in 2012 when I was 17. And that was until the spring, I guess, of that same school year of 2013. And that was when I like quit. Or actually, I probably was fired. Yeah, I think I was fired. Yeah. It was during this time when I got my very first phone. That's crazy, bro. You were 17 when you got your first phone. What a fucking loser. Even back then, that was still like a loser thing. Like everyone at my age had like a smartphone, and I was getting this a track phone that was basically a knockoff BlackBerry, but it served its purpose. It was a phone, and I basically had to pay $50 per month for it. So like, yeah, I did need that job, and that was perfect because like it texted, it called, it did what I needed it to do, and I'm kind of grateful for it and stuff like that because my aunt for my birthday got that for me that year. And yeah, since I was now making money, I could afford a phone. Smartphones were definitely around by this point, but it wouldn't be until 2016 that I finally got my first one. And that was actually at my last job. So, like, from my first job until my last job, I did not have a smartphone. And now I actually have one of the newest iPhones. So, like, it's crazy how life works out that way. No flex though. Like, it's just a fucking phone. Like, everyone has one. So, like, all you broke bitches better watch out. Shit. Sorry. I didn't mean to be a little bit of a fuck boy right there. So, yeah. Um, yeah, so I worked in the interior cleaning section of the car wash, which was just a big open room with a conveyor belt running through it, which cars would be parked on to and automatically go through the building. It was basically a giant garage with openings on both sides. In the summer, it got super hot, and in the winter, it got super cold because there were no doors to close. And yeah, we were just out in the elements, basically, with some roofs, with a roof above our heads and walls on two sides. The customers were not allowed to be in the car when it was going through our area, so they went inside the lobby area of the building where they could watch us do our thing from the giant floor-to-ceiling windows. On any given shift, there could be probably about as many as 15 people working in the interior cleaning at a time. There were actually 3 steps to this process, and we had to complete each thing before the conveyor belt moved the car past each station. So it was kind of like, all right, fuck, we gotta. Sorry, I hit the arm again. I'm like moving my hands around a lot. I do that. But yeah, there were like we had to get really fast, like especially at the very beginning where we had to wipe the entire card. I'll tell you each step. So, I mainly did work at the first 2 stations, which were wiping the body and door jambs of the cars dry with hand towels. And that was the most stressful thing because it's like you only had a limited amount of time to get the car as dry as possible to get rid of the spots and stuff, like spot free. And yeah, so, and then the second section that I normally worked at as well was vacuuming the cars out. And the final part was just the final detailing stuff / giving the car the scent of the customer's choice. I didn't really work at that section at all. And there was a separate station in that building that was just for buffing and waxing the cars, but I never worked at that station. Yeah, I think you had to at least be 18, which I was 17 up until January of 2013. That's when I turned 18. So I was still working there when I did turn 18, so I was able to do that, but I just was like close. I was getting closer to the end of working there anyway. And yeah, so the management was complete shit. No shame in talking about that. They were fucking awful. And the supervisors were fucking dickheads. I called off one day from work to check out a college I wanted to go to. And the one manager said I was fired if I didn't show up that day. So I said, fuck it. This is a part-time job anyway, and I wanted to go to college, so I still went. So essentially, I got fired from my first job. But it felt good to be free from that hellhole of a workplace. I was kind of rough on them, but it was kind of warranted. So now, my second job I started, it was John Herr's Village Market. I started in August of 2013, right before I started college, which I only ever went to half a semester of, but that's talked about in my last podcast about school. Check it out. And I worked there until early in 2014, so not very long. It was probably like in January sometime, I think. And I worked there as a shelf stocker. This job was so, and I guess pretty boring. It was boring as hell. But some of my coworkers were nice. I wouldn't consider them any of my friends because it was just like a lot of older guys. They were nice. And the lunch breaks were an hour long, so it was kind of just at least a nice break talking to my coworkers. Like, they were some pretty funny dudes, I got to admit. Not to mention the job was super easy, not having to interact with customers unless they needed help. Plus, I always greeted anyone I saw anyway, so it's like that was mainly my only interactions with the customers. I was just stocking shelves, and it was mainly pretty easy. Yeah, so I started out just in the dairy section, way back in the back of the store, which had its own storage room slash walk-in from like the main store's storage room. I liked everyone back there in the dairy section, especially the supervisor. Most of the days working there, I was alone, and it was nice and peaceful, away from everything and everyone. But it did feel lonely sometimes, so I would just like sing songs in my head because I didn't want the customers being like, who the fuck is this guy singing? If I wasn't stocking shelves, I was rotating slash checking the expiration dates slash marking down the prices for products that soon were going to be out of date and putting them in the discount area. Yeah, it was pretty fucking boring, but like, it was the dairy section. I would have rather worked there than the front section. And yeah, then one of the managers came and asked if I could help in the front section of the store too, mainly the water section, since like I said, a lot of frail elderly people worked there, and I was only 18 and capable of lifting heavier objects. Oh, there we go. Shot number 2. This episode might have some good shots. All right. Anyway, I switched between these two areas while I worked there, and even got my driver's license while I was there as well in December of 2013, so I could finally drive myself to work. Once I left college, the days working there were some of the most depressing times I've experienced. Not to get all dark on you or anything. It wasn't because of the job itself, but just life in general. But I'll save my sob stories for another episode of the podcast. I don't think I have that on my list about me just like fucking hating life a lot of the time, but I might not even make an episode of that because it's just like I don't have a lot to say. It's just, sorry about that. Finally, I got the shits of it though and quit soon after the new year, close to my 19th birthday. Now, my next job that I worked at was Rite Aid Pharmacy, which you guys probably all know about because Rite Aid is a national pharmacy, unlike the other two jobs, which were a local car wash and a local family-owned grocery store. Now, since I wasn't going to school anymore and I wasn't working at John Hers as well, my mom was rightfully on my ass about getting a new job ASAP, since she wanted me to start paying to live at her house, which I agreed with. All right, I'm an adult at this point. I'm like 19. I eventually applied to Rite Aid which was about a minute walk from my house, as a front end associate, which I got hired for in early summer of 2014 until spring of 2015. The thought of working basically in my backyard made it very enticing since I never had to drive to work, saving gas money. Little did I know I was going to hate being a cashier, even if I did like the coworkers I started with. Keyword started with. The worst parts were when certain holidays rolled around and people swarmed the store to get candy, cards, decorations, etc., and got angry at having to wait in long lines when we were kind of understaffed. It was basically like, not everyone was angry, but there were a few Karens. I hate saying that, but it's like, they're Karens. That's how you would describe them. Yeah, so like there were also customers that were rude to us. Not very often, like the regulars weren't, but there were some customers rude to us about having to show their IDs when buying tobacco products, lighters, cold medicine, etc. Things that like you need to show your ID, especially at a pharmacy for. Even though I just really realized, why the fuck does a pharmacy sell cigarettes and tobacco? I know CVS stopped selling that stuff while I was still at Rite Aid, but like, I don't know if Rite Aid still sells it anymore. It's been a while. It's been like 5 fucking years since I worked there already. Jesus Christ, I didn't realize that. We're in the 2020s. God. Sorry, I got off topic there, but like, why did we sell cigarettes at a fucking pharmacy? Like, I know we sold them in the front end, and there were other things that were unhealthy, like candy and shit. But still, like, you would think more like a pharmacy. All right, I will kill myself now. No, don't. I'm just kidding. All right, so yeah, where was I at this point? Yeah, come to think of it, yeah, all right, yeah. Like they got mad at me for like wanting them. I needed to see their IDs just because like I could lose my job if I didn't card every single person. So like they just didn't get it for some reason. Like come to think of it, why do people get so mad about that shit anyway? It's not even an inconvenience to get your wallet out because at that point you're getting it out to pay anyway. So like why? Like and even it should also be flattering, I would think, that like they were like, "Oh, you actually look younger than you are." Like I know some people are not fooled by that and stuff like that. Like they obviously know that I'm trying to do my job, but like some people are like they're like offended for some reason when I'm like, "Hey, I need to see your ID because we legally cannot give you these if you aren't old enough." And I know you are, but like I still have to look at it or else I could get fired. So yeah, that's kind of annoying. That was kind of annoying, I guess. And then there was another thing that I didn't like but kind of did at the same time. Like it was a double-edged sword here. It was being there at 3 a.m. once a week to receive the truck. The only plus to that day, honestly, each week was that I got to stay away from the register and also got to leave at 11 a.m. while hanging out with a usually cool supervisor. And yeah, that was not too bad because, you know, I was only there from 3 a.m. till 11 a.m. Didn't have to interact with anyone. Can you tell I don't like interacting with the customers? I like interacting with people when I'm not at work. And anyway, so yeah, I did hate the whole getting up at 3 a.m. thing though. And more than once, I have to admit this, I had to be called by the supervisor to wake me up. So I decided that those nights I just wouldn't sleep, making me tired and not at top performance when lifting heavy boxes of products, making my work suffer a bit and just making me feel like shit. And after a while, my favorite coworkers started leaving the store for other jobs or moving up to corporate in the case of our store manager when I first started, which fucking bummed me out so much that one day in like May of 2015, after a particularly stressful day, I decided it was time to quit. I finished my shift and just never came back. My mom was understandably pissed off since I now had no income to pay her for living there, and I promised her that I would find another job ASAP. So that brings me to my last job that I had before my current one, which was Hoffman Care Associates. It was also my second favorite job. It wasn't until near the end of the summer of 2015 that I did get a new job. My mom had a friend that talked to her about his place of employment hiring, and since he was a manager at that point, he could vouch for me. I didn't even know what the job was until after I applied. I just knew it had something to do with like old people. That's what I thought it was, but boy, man, was I wrong. But I did have an interview. It went well, and I started at Hoffman. Hoffman Care Associates is a small local family-run company that is state-funded and runs homes for adults with intellectual disabilities. I'm not going to talk much about what happened there, like specifics, since it's a major privacy issue. But in general, it was a great job in both the decent pay and the rewarding experience of working with these individuals. There were some caveats, as you can imagine, with working with those not only with intellectual disabilities, but physical disabilities as well, such as lots of stress, compassion fatigue, and if you don't know what that is, look it up, compassion fatigue, and just all around burnout. At our meetings, they would say that the average time a person stays in this field of work is like 9 months. I did beat the odds and was there for just over 2 years before I just couldn't handle it anymore and started my worst bout of depression that I've ever experienced. I didn't feel like I belonged doing this for the rest of my fucking life, and the stress was just getting to me, man. Even if it did gain me some great life experience. So, yeah, before I left, though, I was looking into doing Uber, trying to do Uber maybe for a living, even though it seemed unlikely. I was willing to try it. And my car at that time was an old but pretty reliable 1998 Plymouth Breeze, which was my first car ever, and I still had it that many years later. And I had it just before my 16th birthday in 2011, and it was 2017 at that point. So yeah, I had the car for 8 years. No, 6 years. Damn. I can't do basic math. Might as well fucking die. Man, I made that joke like twice already, and like people are gonna start worrying. But I'm okay. I'm actually in the best mental state I've been in a while. So yeah, I decided that I did want to upgrade if I wanted to do Uber, because you needed a car at least 10 years or younger. And yeah, 1998, that car was only 3 years younger than I was at that point. So yeah. I applied for an auto loan one day while I was at work, and surprise, surprise, I got pre-qualified for up to $25,000, and I was ecstatic. I told my mom and her boyfriend that I wanted to go car shopping. I still didn't tell them that I was thinking of quitting my current job, but like, all right, third shot. Get it, boys. And since I had no experience in car shopping, they went along with me. That's when I finally got the car I currently have. I've a white 2014 Mazda 6 Grand Touring Edition in October of 2017. So this will be the third. It's going to be the third year soon that I've had this car. Yeah, and I named her Pearl. It took a while. It took almost 3 years. I only just recently named her because she's like a pearly white color. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I still love that car to this day. I applied to be an Uber driver and was approved for that as well. And then one day in January of like 2018, I decided enough of this job. I was going to quit and try Uber full time. Well, that did not work out. I was pretty fucked at that point. And I was living with my grandparents for the second time in my life since my mom had kicked me out earlier that winter, since we just were like constantly butting heads and couldn't go a day without arguing over the most trivial bullshit that for some reason I found it was trivial, but she didn't, yet I would just argue back and forth with her, and it just wasn't working out, man. Like, we're on great terms right now because I don't live with her, and it's like, damn, I just had to be away from her for most of my time, and then we could get along. But yeah, my relationship with my family is for another episode. So yeah, it's actually probably going to be my next episode. Yeah. So yeah, we got my current job now. Domino's, baby. Shit. It may not sound like the most glamorous job in the world, not the highest paying job in the world, but once you hear what it's been like, you might kind of change your mind, even though if it's not for you. So yeah, that's when I started applying to these places, like, not to these places, to places like crazy, because my grandparents wanted me to pay also to live at their house. So I decided that I needed income quick. I had a total of 3 interviews in 1 week, and the first was at Panera Bread, which I never really followed through with. It didn't seem like it was for me. But since there were 2 other that happened on the same day, I felt that they were a better fit for me. The other 2 were actually, one of them was at a local diner, a former local diner, which you'll find out soon, that had just opened up in a brand new shopping center, and the other as a delivery driver at my local Domino's. I like the idea of driving around and having the freedom to listen to music all the time while making tip money plus my base pay. So I ended up choosing Domino's over the host position that they wanted me to do at the diner. Honestly, best fucking decision I could have made, because not very long after that diner closed down. Mind you, it was pretty brand new. That diner closed down. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was bad sales. Maybe it was too high of prices and people just never showed up, which would cause bad sales. So I bet you it was bad sales. I don't know. I never worked there. fortunately, because they fucking closed down. And then I would have been out of fucking job. Plus, I think the pay is I'm making probably way more money at Domino's as a delivery driver than I would have as a host at that fucking diner. Because it's like all tips are my tips, you know? And there it's like tip sharing, and yeah. So yeah, I do make enough money to comfortably live my life the way I like, since my grandparents make me pay a lot less than if I had an apartment or house of my own, which I'm eternally grateful for. They treat me like an adult, unlike my mom did when I lived there. I'm not throwing shade at her, but like, I think a lot of the reason I didn't get along with her is because she's treated me like I was still a fucking child. I know I lived under her roof and it should be under her rules, but like, I wanted to be more independent as like in my thinking than just being like, all right, listen to everything my parents say. So like, yeah, they treat me like an adult, my grandparents do, and we never argue. Like it's night and day, night and fucking day. I pay my own bills, and it's great. Like I pay my car, my phone, my insurance. I pay everything. I pay my grandparents. I do want to find a roommate eventually and move out because like I don't, like people don't like, it's like, especially like girls, like they're like, oh, you live with your grandparents, you live with your parents. No, like you want to have your own place. And even though they like respect my privacy, it's like, if I ever do want to have friends or like a girl over, or it's not as easy when there's other people in the house, but yeah, it is a pretty sweet gig though, and I appreciate and love my grandparents to death for taking me in when I might not have had any other place to go when I get kicked out. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to say anything about my family, but yeah, back to Domino's. Ashley, the store manager, is just great. She supports all the shit I do on my YouTube and with my music. Yeah, this is where I was talking about earlier. I was about my American Idol audition. She even went with me and a few others, like her boyfriend Chris, one of my other coworkers Todd, and Todd's girlfriend Caitlin, to my American Idol audition. For a future episode, we'll talk about that. I met some of my current best friends there, like John and Noah, who isn't there anymore, but like I'm sure we could still, like, he'd still be down to chill and shit like that. We haven't hung in a while. Yeah, John started a little less than a year after me, and I even got my brother to work there as well. He started almost a year after I did. Man, I just realized it's crazy to think how fast time has gone and how many people have left since more than 2 years ago. I'm actually considered one of the veterans at our store, and besides Ashley, Todd, one of the shift runners, Gavin, and another driver that used to work at a store in his hometown in Illinois, I've been at Domino's the longest out of everyone at our store. I actually feel like these people are like my family, and I really do feel like once I eventually leave there, I'll still be friends with everyone for years afterwards, maybe even the rest of my entire life, because these guys, like, these are the best coworkers I've ever had. And if I was at any other job with those same coworkers, that would probably also be my best job, even if I was at fucking Cloister with these people, like my least favorite job. It really does depend on the management and coworkers, like, for real. But honestly, that's pretty much all I have to say on my jobs. So yeah, I'm just going to remind you guys, go to my YouTube channel, Number 8 Entertainment. And if you want to help support my dream of making this my full-time job in general, like doing online content, because like I said, I don't want to stay at Domino's forever, but like until I find something else or like maybe make this my full-time job, yeah, you can check out my Patreon and support me there at www.patreon.com/number8entertainment. So thank you guys for listening. I will see you in the next episode where I talk about my family and some crazy/funny memories and experiences I've had with them, and some not as funny. I would say some more like shitty things, but like in general, it's gonna be fucking nuts. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, then and if you guys want to ask me some questions, I still haven't got any questions because like it's not a big podcast. I don't have a big YouTube channel, big following or anything like that. But if you do happen to hear this part, you can ask me some questions about family in general, and I will answer them in the next episode of the podcast. At the beginning, you can ask on my Twitter, my Facebook page. My Twitter is at number8ent. All right, there we go again. Fourth shot. This is a record. So yeah, my Twitter is at number8ent. We got Facebook, number8 Entertainment. And also, you can ask me in the comment section of the YouTube version of this podcast. So yeah, that is all I have today, and I will see you guys in the next episode.